question about this. Can I ask you a question?
About what is this?
About this project?
Your name?
My name is Olga Schumann. I live at 17 Bradford Road.
All right. This is going to be informational because we're done with the
Informational.
process.
I just have an informational question.
Okay?
I saw on the previous video that you didn't want the circular driveway. I wanted to know what the reason is behind it. Is this a personal preference of the planning board, or is there, because there's a ton of circular driveways in this town. So what is the reasoning behind it?
Well, first of all, not every project that's built in this town comes before the planning board. In general, we do not approve semicircular driveways because we think that they're more of a suburban type of feature rather than a semi-rural type of driveway, which is what we try to reinforce as the planning board, since this town is trying to, keep its semi-rural appearance.
Is there a bylaw anywhere that forbids them?
I think under the standards and guidelines that are in the bylaws, it talks about minimizing disturbances, it talks about, and in that, we're also looking at the amount of impervious surface, versus non-impervious surface, which are all important
But-
in terms of, the community that,
I
things
understand,
are
but from what I understand, the state law states that the driveways should be 14 feet wide, and you're making them narrower. I mean, it's really hard to turn around there, especially in the winter when you push the snow around. They become 8 feet,
I would
so.
like to explore semicircular driveways, whether it be tonight or in your comment session, at the beginning of a meeting, because, I never really started looking at it till when this happened, and I went on my dog walk, and I live on the north side, so not the most lavish houses in town, but still very nice, but I go down Montvale to Colchester to Laurel, back out of Sears, and then down Conant, and I counted 28 semicircular driveways, and it's almost that, my observation was almost that it's almost the in-between size houses that have them, because the bigger lots, bigger houses, a lot of them can have their turnaround right there.
or their parking courts.
Yeah, or their parking courts, whereas,
Not something we really.
but the houses on the north side, a lot of them have semicircular. I used to be, for a lot of years, head of the Council on Aging. It makes it a lot easier for seniors to get in and out.
Correct.
There's a lot to be said for it. Personally, I'd probably, maybe on my house, I'd rather have the grass than the driveway, but what you see is when the planning board's not involved, there's a very strong preference for a lot of people. I still think it's not the majority on my walk, but it was close to 50% that had semicircular driveways. So I'd at least ask the board to consider, how strongly you take that position, especially in this instance. We want to get forward, so we're happy to move forward as we are, but here, it's a private neighborhood, it's a private road that you can't even go on it unless you have permission from the homeowner or else you live there. But it's just, it asks the board to reconsider that, because there is a strong preference for a lot of people, even though it is a little more asphalt.
This has been the planning board's consistent policy for at least 18 years. Yeah.
But you're allowing it.
You're allowing them.
Well, that depends on a number of factors.
Yeah.
I think what we need to do, this is the wrong time to discuss this.
I know it's not the perfect time.
If this is something that is driving people crazy, I don't know why there's suddenly a room full of people worried about circular driveways, but my suggestion would be come back at during the initial part of the meeting when we're talking about public comments. This is not on our
It's not on the
agenda.
agenda, I agree.
So we can't really discuss it.
Is this something the board would
At this point?
entertain,
Of
it'll
course.
take up your whole 15 minutes at the start of a meeting, but there are some feelings on this, because,
Yeah, well, apparently,
Well,
and
again,
it's not a McMansion.
you see all the old familiar faces.
But it's-
It's something that a
Yeah.
certain part of the community, I guess, feels strongly about. There's no problem discussing
Yeah.
it, but it's not on the agenda
Yeah,
at this point.
I agree. But I'll leave you with, and then we'll come back, but what I found was it's not a McMansion issue. It really isn't.
no, but it has to do with, again, as was eloquently put before, trying to preserve the more of the rural, the country look rather than, the suburban look. The more finished stuff, with more, screening, as natural as it can sometimes be. It's not always, of course, So issues in terms of impervious surface, issues in terms of screening, and issues in terms of the character of the town are the things that sort of driving this. I hear what you're saying, that there, for some people, in an elderly situation, it might be a whole lot easier for them to deal with things. And there may be other reasons why it makes sense, that should be considered on, as an exception to what our policy would be. Of course, we try not to go for exceptions because it, becomes a little more arbitrary and stuff.
Yeah.
So again, the ones that come before here, we don't, support that at all.
On my dog walk, there's certainly
Well, let's just say,
Laurel has a
A
site
lot of
plan.
things don't come before us.
No, I'm talking about 23 Laurel.
I'm saying we can't, it's not on the agenda right now.
All right.
I keep saying we can't talk about it yet.
I know it's not on the
We keep
agenda.
talking about it.
I'm glad you let us talk about it as much as you did, but I may have bring it back.
Yeah.
And one thing to consider is if you feel that strong, because there's frustration on some of the folks here, if it goes in sometimes and sometimes doesn't, maybe you should see if you have enough votes.
This is already in.
Maybe you should see if you have enough votes to put it in the bylaw, and then it's either allowed or it's not allowed.
Well, it would be interesting to see how many houses that have been through site plan approval have
Yeah.
semicircular driveways.
Yeah, I'd like to get.
I would
that.
imagine very few.
Yeah, mine wasn't scientific.
Yeah.
It was just walking. There's one that I know went through, so it was 23, but
We
I don't
keep
know.
talking about it.
I'm done.
Come at the beginning.
I'm done.
Public comments, that would be
Thank you.
the right time. Or set,
Or
if
put it
you
on the
want
agenda.
to, or put it on the agenda, as a discussion for one of our meetings.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Sorry about that.
I can look at, well, I can look at all the ones. Okay.
All right, we'll look at Hubbard.
Just a quick question, there's gonna be no public comment or anything?
We already had it at the beginning of the meeting. So, we have to schedule these discussions in the agenda, because otherwise people don't know they're coming up, and they need to be notified. So, either, as I was just saying to Jonathan, come at the beginning of the meeting when the public comment section is available, or ask Betsy to schedule a time at one of our meetings to talk about this issue. We're glad to talk about it, it's just that we can't talk about it right then.
Okay, that's it, thank you.
I would suggest the latter to the former on that, just because it'll give you more of a set time and more time for preparation.
We definitely got some comments regarding that.
Sorry, I mean, usually with these, it's a matter of we read them and
Sure,
vote on
no,
them.
we understand.
We don't take any testimony.
We'll be back.
So,
Thanks.
sorry. We're happy.
Thank you.
We have an audience.
Listen to your comments though after the last one, it will be very interesting. It was something about a lesson given, so we're just trying to figure out what is consistently given.
Right, that's, I can understand that.
It's not consistent.
Amazon that wrote that Steve.
What was that?
Yes.
Suzanne, Suzanne should be here for that discussion.
Oh, yes.
She was
Yes.
she had
She was wearing
the sword and buckler, the last time.